talk about Jekyll and Hyde because here's two of them. 30-12 South knocked off. Well, it was Parramatta. You know what the weird thing about Parramatta is?
They're Parramatta.
100%. But their fans always seem to know when they're going to play like shit. Like if you talk to Para fans, they tell you before the game, "No, we won't win." I'm like I've never seen a
Also,
team, and they all do it. Like it's not like it's one bloke. Everyone you talk to, "No, we won't win this week." It's amazing.
To your point,
Yeah.
Is it just me, or was there sort of an aura, or it was not unpredictable that the Bulldogs were going to flog Parramatta about a month ago? Like it seemed the day of the game or whatever. Like I remember waking up thinking, like,
well, Dana told us
if the Bulldogs flog.
But
I swear, like a couple of people, like I don't know that. It'll be such a Para thing if the Dogs flog them. And it was just sort of that.
It's like it's the reverse fairy tale story.
But it's like it's like then when it happened, like on paper we should be shocked, but when it happened, it was sort of like, oh yeah.
It's like if you could think of the worst thing that could happen to Parramatta this weekend, it'll happen. They have the good story the next week, and wow,
it's just amazing. And just do your stats, Barnway.
Yeah, well, we did hear from a few Parramatta fans, and they were petrified. They said that Latrell would come in and Parramatta would just be scared, and they looked scared when he was running the ball, to be honest. But we had Souths 30, Parramatta 12, 5 tries to 2, 5 out of 5 conversions played 2 out of 2, 75% completion played 70%, 33 out of 44 sets played 28 out of 40, 400 plus running meters for Souths, 5 line breaks to 2, 33 tackle busts to 18, 6 offloads to 4, 5 forced dropouts by Souths, 1 by Parramatta. 381 tackles played, 381 tackles. 1 ruck infringement against Parramatta, 1 inside the 10 against Parramatta. 5 penalties conceded to 3, 14 errors to 13. Cook made 49 tackles, Mahoney with 55, Alex Johnson with 274 running meters, Paulo with 197 meters. Graham missed 4 tackles, made 19. Ilias missed 3 and made 12. Mahoney missed 6 and made 55. And Gutherson missed 3 and made 8. Alex Johnson with 111 Supercoach points. Latrell with 99. And 3 other Souths players before you got to Gutherson on 73.
So, like, is there a logic to these teams that beat Para? Is it just that maybe it suits certain teams don't suit their up and in defence, certain teams do? Is it just Parramatta? Is it impossible for any logical mind to try and work out?
Well, Parramatta got belted in the forwards in this game, and you don't see it happen very often.
Like, particularly by a Souths team.
Mate, they just turned into an absolutely different team. Their forwards ran harder, hit harder than they have all year. They were energised. They were enthusiastic. It was a complete contrast after, when Latrell comes back in, then they all just play like they're fucking superstars. I don't understand how putting one bloke in and back at fullback can make your entire forward pack run like a pack of monsters through the middle of the field. Like they were completely different to what they've been putting out week after week, that forward pack. They were amazing, this forward pack. They would have beaten pretty much any team in the comp through the middle in this game. Like they were...
My team?
They would have beaten you by 100. This forward pack was one of the best performances I've seen out of a forward pack all year. They absolutely ripped into the middle of Parramatta, and Parramatta just seemed to have no answer to it. I don't understand how they can just completely turn and do that, but they did. That catch and offload off Isaiah Tass, that was a highlight moment that'll probably float around on the reels for a little while. Looks like a pretty special young player, that fella. So I think the longer they have him in the centres or in the wings, that could only be a good thing for him. Parramatta's forwards weren't even that bad. Like most of them were pretty decent, but they got blown off the park by this South forward pack. And if they can do that every week, or most games for the rest of the year, they're going to be a contender at the back end of the year. But obviously we've got our question marks about that happening every week. Paris halves and outside backs minus Gutho were near non-existent. They had not a lot of ball, and when they did sweep fuck all with it. Mahoney and Paulo were fairly decent in the middle. Papali'i was kept quiet in this game, which is unusual for him. I thought Oregon Kaufusi off the bench actually gave him a bit of go forward through the middle. He was quite good. But, Niokore was okay. Gutherson and Sean Lane were their best players, and they were standouts compared to pretty much the rest of this team. Keon Kulamutangi, Totola, and Burgess were fantastic in the middle, and they were probably the worst performances out of this South starting pack. Murray, Arrow, and Cook were just fucking everywhere. They ripping in defense and attack, short passing. That was so good. Tass and Johnson were the best of the outside backs. But to me, Parramatta's defense looked terrified every time Latrell chimed into the back line. Yeah. Like they shit themselves. They were either ball watching Cody or ball watching Latrell, and they just sort of stood back and went, oh, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Oh, fuck, he's gone. And he's passed it to someone else, and AJ's run around him and scored in the corner. Like they were dead set terrified of Latrell every time he touched the ball.
And amazing how Cody even grew a leg.
Well, he knows where he's going to be. You know what I mean? Like he knows he can just put the play on him and knows Latrell's out there. So even if he gives him a shit pass, Latrell could make something happen anyway. So it just adds that confidence to Cody Walker.
You going to talk about this, Oliver?
Yes, I would. And it was not only the return of Latrell Mitchell in this one, it was also, I'd say, the return of Thomas Burgess, who for a large part of this season, at least the last few weeks, I've been less than amazing, put it that way. And after a really good 2021, but he well and truly had a return to form in this game. I think Saliva Havili, a player who we've sort of been spruiking, I guess you could say, the past few weeks, coming off of the bench there, limited minutes, but I think he was good. South Sydney overall just running over the top. I think they managed to win the forward battle, but obviously their back line, just the speed and X factor that they've got, and they just, they humbled Parramatta really across the field, and that's all you could really say about it. Other than the impact of Latrell Mitchell, I guess, just being there and being Latrell, you sort of bring up players with that natural talent, that natural ability, sort of do anything, and that's Latrell. And I think that's part of what keeps these defenses guessing, and it'll be interesting to see if he can have that same impact against a few other teams this year in the coming weeks. Look, I'm not saying Latrell Mitchell's going to be frightening a team like Penrith or even North Queensland anytime soon, but some of these other teams, I feel like we could see a bit of a late season flourish from Latrell, which would be good to see, because I think it's the past 2 years he's missed the back end of the season through injury or suspension.
Yeah. You get these into a qualifying final, and you could just really fire up if they can get there. But are you giving 3 to Latrell, Barn?
No, I'm giving 3 to Cook. I didn't give a point to Latrell, to be honest. I know he did. They were terrified of him, and he put on a couple of nice passes. But I think this was one through the middle, and without the work that the forwards did through the middle, they wouldn't have had any. They wouldn't have been able to get on the front foot outside. So I gave Cook 3. I gave Murray 2, and then I either had Sean Lane or Arrow for the 1 point, or you could give it to Latrell, I suppose. But
Ollie.
Well, I'd like to give it to Latrell, but I do agree. I do think there were actually better players, and I think I will go with Arrow from South Sydney. I think, that as a whole, the team played really well. There wasn't really a poor performance across the field, and that's why Latrell probably misses out.
I actually wouldn't mind making a case to give Alex Johnson a point, because we never really do. And he did score 2 tries and around 270 plus run meters.
Let's go with AJ. I'm happy with that.
Let's do that.
All right. Would you like a break, gentlemen? 22-2, the Warriors returned back to New Zealand to win their return in pleasant scenes. What did the stats say, Bun?
Wonderful scenes here.
Wonderful
3
scenes.
tries to 0. 3 out of 3 conversions played 0. 2 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Warriors, 1 out of 1 for the Tigers. 72% completion, played 86% completion for the Tigers. 32 out of 44 sets, played 31 out of 36. 3 line breaks to 1. 39 tackle busts to 17. 8 offloads to 3. 4 forced dropouts by the Tigers. 0 40-20s, 345 tackles played, 386, 1 ruck infringement against the Tigers, 1 inside the 10 against the Warriors, 5 penalties conceded to 8, 14 errors to 7, Aitken made 49 tackles, Offa Hengawi made 58, Fanua Blake with 163 running meters, and Mamalo with 195. Montoya missed 2 tackles and made 5, and that was the worst for the Warriors. Brooks missed 8 and made 32. Tohu Harris with 92 Supercoach points, Offa Hengawi with 87, and Sean Johnson with 73.
That did happen. Ollie?
Well, I'll start off like this, Daggy. Do not despair, because as he said, the Warriors returned home triumphantly this week, and next weekend the Tigers will triumphantly return to Leichhardt Oval, where they have such an amazing record returning to each time they go back to that ground.
I'm praying for a washout.
You'll be looking forward to that one. Well, they're versing Parramatta, so they'll probably win.
That's true.
Yeah, don't the Warriors wish they could be returning home every week? Because just like going through and looking at these stats, and based off of what I've seen from the Warriors this season, this is like a completely different side. Like, where's this effort been all year as well? And I don't mean to be a poopy pants negative, but to be honest, like, a lot of it this year has come down to effort with the Warriors, like it has the Tigers and the Titans as well. They're no different. The effort was the effort was there for this one. Especially we saw some great performances out of the likes of Sean Johnson as well, who this season has largely just been a ghost. Like
his best game for 12 months.
Like
probably longer.
Honestly, like and when he was at Cronulla, he was good. I don't think he was horrible at Cronulla, quite injury prone, but I think he was good, and sort of not getting back to that necessarily in this game alone. But again, just coming back to New Zealand for that 1 week is interestingly seen some of these players look like superstars for the game. So whether or not they can keep up that form, Jesus Christ, I sure hope not. But if they do, it's a big positive for the Warriors and a team who overall, and we've sort of spoke about it, looking towards the future, don't actually have a whole lot going for them. So the most they can get out of now, the more positive impact that'll have sort of heading towards the future, I think. So hopefully for their sake, they could get that secured. The Tigers, I thought for most of the first half, I thought that they matched them pretty well. I think the Warriors were getting a lot of the 50-50 calls, though, which the Warriors tend not to get a lot of the time. I wonder why they were getting them.
By a lot of them, you mean all of them? It was like 68% possession at halftime.
Yeah, and I think,
and lucky that the Warriors, let's all be honest, Warriors aren't that good, and no. Tigers are bad. Warriors' execution is pretty poor a lot of the time. They could have won this game by 50 if they're any good.
Yeah, and I agree, but I guess I just, during the start of the game, at least, the Tigers, I think, we're matching them pretty well when we're sort of up on that level. But I think I'll hand over to you now, Daggy, to elaborate on the Tigers a little bit more.
But David wants to talk.
Okay, sorry.
Right, yeah. I don't have a lot to say, but I got a little bit. The Warriors were definitely, obviously, up and about for this. They haven't. A large part of this side hasn't been home for 2 years, so they've obviously got to add something. You could see a lot of there seemed to be a weight lifted off a lot of them, but they came here with a plan, and that was to bash the Tigers through the middle of the field. I thought their forwards were quite good. There was some really strong, dominant displays out of their middles. Fanua Blake, Josh Curran, a couple of others, Tohu Harris were fantastic in the middle of the field. And there was only really one Tiger that seemed to offer any resistance, and that was Offa Hengawi, who's been in career best form for the last 6 to 8 weeks. He's going real well at the moment. By no means a beautiful game of footy, but it was tough and gritty, and the Warriors came out with the huge intensity early. The Tigers, as Ollie said, were pretty willing and were able to hang on for quite a long time, but eventually weight of possession, weight of calls just broke through with the Tigers. The one disappointing thing for the Tigers was that when the possession and that they did have, they didn't seem to threaten the defensive line at all for the Warriors, which was their defense was better than it has been recently, but there was still opportunities that the Tigers just didn't take at all. The back row has caused a lot of issues for the Tigers. Curran, Aitken, the Tigers were struggling all day to sort of grab onto those blokes and stop them. Garner and Fanua Pole, young fella, debut, I'm pretty sure it was. I thought he was very good. And Whanamanu Brown, I thought they were probably some of the better players in the middle for the Tigers. Dewey and Hastings tried hard, but once it gets outside of those guys, there's not a lot that seems to be happening out any wider than the halves. So, what do you say? Laurie was okay. Offhand Go was fantastic. I thought Harris Tavita and Egan were good for the Warriors and threatened quite a bit in and around the ruck. Tavanga and Fanua Blake. I'll add Curran to it, were the strongest ones through the middle and Aitken and Tohu Harris were fantastic. But the man of the match, I thought, was Sean Johnson because he seemed to have a hand in pretty much any point that they had to offer for the Warriors. So.
Yeah, you've covered off the Warriors pretty well. The issue with the Tigers is, like, I think I actually missed because I was watching UFC for the first half, and
should have kept watching UFC.
Oh, I did. It finished, but then I watched it and then watched the second half. But the Tigers had enough possession to come back in this game, and their attack looked it just looked confused after, which it has been for a long time. But they went away from having Hastings having his ball in the hands all the time. The whole team was being run through Dewey by the end of the game, to the point I think I messaged you and said, like, what is this? What is the structure here? Because I couldn't hear the commentary. But
Hastings did seem to pick up a knock.
Yeah, he did, and admittedly he had an ankle, so maybe he didn't want to be kicking
himself out of the
but
the attack a little bit. I think he got a shoulder knock as well. So
it does, and that's a fair call because Dewey was doing all the in-play kicking by the end of the game, and he was fine, and he'll be fine. But
2 games back, it's a bit of a job for him to be doing.
That's right, but the 3 of them on the field doesn't work. They've got to make the call, and if Brooks is not where they want to go, just get rid of him. Well, let's move on. The only other comment I wanted to make was I agree. I thought, is it Pole?
Yeah.
Pole, he was more than serviceable. I think he'll be fine. Austin Diaz didn't do a lot, but at least looked like he was trying, which is a nice change. And for Manu Brown. So then, surprise, they're 3 blokes that haven't been in this team for a while. I don't see the upside. I think
they give Farnerman and Brown a crack at 9. To be honest, why not? You can't be any worse than what they're doing.
That's right.
Just give him 80 minutes at 9 and see how he goes.
Yeah. The reason is they don't want to have. Apparently, they're too scared to drop Brooks. I think they probably would if they could.
Yeah.
We'll see where it happens. Apparently, it's was coming or is coming or might be coming. But if this is where it looked particularly like they will finish the season with Hastings and Dewey, which is probably the destination all along. Warriors are the Warriors. I don't think they'll beat the other geeks if they play at home again. And if not, are they full home and away now, or is this just a
Yeah, no, still home now. I think they've only got 4 or 5 games left for the rest of the season at home, so they'll be travelling every second week pretty much. So.
And you didn't really mention Wade Egan, but he was good. And unfortunately, my one big disaster class crack was taken off me. But anyway.
This is a bit of a tough one too, because you would have assumed it got to the ground, but they said they couldn't see it. So
anyway, different if you need the money. It's we've talked enough about a game between 15th and 16th, so let's move on. 3 points Johnson, 2 points Tohu, and you can pick whoever you want.
I gave Offhand Gowie 2 points. I thought he was tremendous for the Tigers. He's been leading that pack for weeks, and I thought he was the second best player on the field, followed by Tohu Harris.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Let's wrap it up. 12-10 with the Dragons, as we've touched on, getting home against the Raiders in a game of football in a hurricane. God bless those 2 fellas that stood up on the hill the whole game.
Surprised they didn't get blown over.
I assume they're now in intensive care, but I hope they enjoy themselves. So, stats behind.
Yeah, we had 2 tries apiece, 1 out of 2 conversions for both teams, and 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for the Dragons. 78% completion for the Dragons, 70% for the Raiders. 33 out of 42 sets, played 29 out of 41. 3 line breaks to 4, 26 tackle busts to 33, 10 offloads for the Dragons, 7 for the Raiders. 3 forced dropouts from both teams, 344 tackles, played 366. 1 ruck infringement, played 2 inside the 10 against the Dragons. 4 penalties conceded to 6, 10 errors to 15. McCulloch made 48 tackles, Tapane with 45, Ravalawa with 144 running meters, and Tapane with 158 running meters. Amone missed 4 tackles, made 13. Hunt missed 4 and made 17. Tomoko missed 3 and made 5. Tapane with 94 Supercoach points. Elliott with 77. Hudson Young with 77. And Sully with 70. Yeah, as you mentioned, blowing a gale, raining sideways down in Wollongong. And they would have been horrendous being out there trying to play this game of footy. I reckon they should refund the tickets to anybody that was stupid enough to go out there and sit there and watch this game, because they didn't deserve to have to put up with the weather and then watch the performance from both of these teams, because there was some pretty poor footy played with some pretty horrendous weather to go with it. Both teams and the weather worked together to make this a very hard watch, this game. The Dragons were absolutely gifted their first try with a short kickoff gone wrong and tap back straight to Amone to basically just dive over the try line and score the first try. The next 3 tries were basically just changes of angle and running straight and hard and catch and pass, and there was some simple tries scored. There was no brilliant football played. The Dragons halves won their matchup with the Raiders halves. They were much better than the halves out from the Raiders. There was a couple of really good, great forward performances from the Raiders, but the Dragons just had more contributions. They had more blokes playing decent footy, and they were Jack DeBellin, Blake Laurie was decent. Sims, McCulloch, and Sewer were good. Jack Bird was their best forward. I thought he had a really good game, considering he's been up and down for most of the season. Whitehead and Horsburgh were okay. Elliott, Young, and Tapane were fantastic. They were doing what they do pretty much every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and that was carrying this Raiders team, but they just couldn't get them home at the end of the day.
Yeah, they interesting calls on both the dropouts, the one that led to points, and then the one that
penalty.
was a penalty. It looked pretty much exactly the same to me, but what would I know? You mentioned Blake Laurie. He's having a good season. Good on him. Trying very hard. The only one I sort of want to half knock again is Whitehead. I think he's a bit of a passenger these days and holding perhaps in the way of kicks. So giving it Elliott and especially someone like we were he's not even in the squad anymore. A spot, but budget of a game. Dragons won again, and Dragons are. You've got to give credit. We're first to bag team setups and coaches and all the rest of it. Name it the first, but we don't mind piling on. Hook's got a team that we all probably thought wouldn't finish higher than 14th, and they're going to probably make the finals.
And Sully was really good again for the Dragons.
Sully was good again. Yeah. So I've got to give a shout out to Hook, because we questioned that all along, and he's got this team overperforming, in my opinion. So shout out there, Ollie.
Well, just looking at sort of the impact that this game's had, and I'm having a look now at the for and against, and I feel like this may be the game. I said going into it could be a top 8 4-pointer, but I feel like this might be the one where it's getting very close, if not already putting the pen through Canberra, to be honest, because looking at the for and against, and the Dragons have a horrible, they're minus 70, but they're in the top 8, and they do have 4 points on Canberra, but we got Canberra in 11th with minus 41. The Seagulls and Roosters, the 2 teams above them, just outside of the top 8, both have positive for and against. So I feel like even if Canberra sort of hang along with them, and it's sort of a shame because Canberra, I think we all agree Canberra has improved from what we saw at the start of the season.
The last 6 weeks have been, rocks and diamonds compared to what they put up at the start of the year.
100%. But
they, that's what's cost them, to be honest. Yeah. Like if they didn't start as poorly as they did, I know they beat the Sharks in round one, which was obviously a good way to start the year. But I think the next 5 or 6 games they got beaten and convincingly beaten, and just played really bad football. The young fella Schneider was trying hard, but Whiten went missing, and a lot of their outside backs were playing really poorly. I know they've hurt, they can blame the ref for this one, not getting this one, but they can realistically can't blame anybody but themselves from the way that they started this year. But they were one of the poorer teams running around for the first probably 8 weeks of the season. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just think with where they are on the ladder and their for and against comparative to those two teams above them, I think you'd just about probably rule them out of top 8 contention now.
Yeah, you'd want to have a look at obviously the run homes of the last 10 weeks or whatever it is, but they're pushing shit uphill now. So
Dragons, poor old Dragons have Brisbane, the Roosters, the Seagulls, the Cowboys, the Sharks. The next 6 weeks. So.
Well, interesting. 2 of those teams are the 2 teams below them. So
exactly, they do probably meet Brisbane at the right time, coming Origin and injury. So we'll see. And
I still don't think Souths are a guarantee either to make the 8, right? So realistically, we could say the last 2 spots are up for grabs.
I'd even say the last 3, to be honest. Like realistically, the top 5, you'd probably say will make the 8 now. But other than that, if anything could happen.
If Manly play like they did, they'll make the 8.
You would think so, but Manly another one that play 2 good games of footy and then 3 shit games of footy. So nobody's really been consistent apart from Penrith all year. Like even Melbourne have got away with a few. There's probably 3 or 4 wins there where they probably should have lost.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I don't think I've ever seen a season with less consistency from across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and the Cowboys. The Cowboys have been pretty consistent.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got to give out some dag points here. I've forgotten about that.
I gave Tarpany 3 in a losing team. I thought he was the best player on the ground again, but that could just be a bit of my bias. I had Jack Bird in for 2, and then I had one of the Dragons halves for the 1 point.
Yeah, give it to. I still think, despite the penalty, I think you still give it to Hunt.
Yeah.
So that's fine with me as well. It's amazing. Jack Bird felt like for that first half, he felt like he was in everything. He ran 36 meters.
Yeah.
Like it felt like every time we touched a ball, something was going to happen. I don't know. What do you have to do? We got a pot plant. There's plenty around this week. A few of them got blown off the hill, but who
already given him a bit of a serve in the Titans rematch. Jarrod Wallace is the biggest liability in the game, in my opinion. And if he may as well not be out there, if I could put the pot plant in the middle of the field, might trip someone over and not give a penalty away.
Oliver,
I'm going to stick with the Titans, and I'm going to pot plant my man, just because I feel like he deserves it. How do I say it? Especially so with his great defensive effort against a winger here, and that's Jermaine Osako. And you know what? I think I might go double trouble. I'll chuck Brian Kelly in there as well. We'll put both of their seeds into the one pot plant to create this grotesque abomination.
Alrighty.
Balls and missed tackles.
I'll just say Jaden Nikorima.
Yeah, he had a shocker. He absolutely did. I'll give you Gumpy's one. It would have been Declan Casey. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
The way that we heard through the chat. Kid on debut, you can't really pot plant him, I don't think, but I'm pretty sure Gumpy would have. So.
You got a slap, Ollie?
Yeah, I want to slap the weather.
Sure. That sounds like a euphemism, but I'm not sure what for.
No, the water that came from the sky during the weekend.
Yes, no, I know what you mean, but okay.
Taking slaps at the fucking rain as it comes past. I'm going to slap Jackson Hastings. Considering the form that he was in 6 weeks ago, he's running the show. Tigers actually looked like they were going somewhere with their attack. His last month has been more than disappointing in my eyes. He doesn't seem to be creating anything like he was. And I know he can be a lot better than what he is currently put in over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So hopefully a slap around the chops getting going.
I like the fact he was captain on the weekend. I guess he probably earned it, but I agree 100%. And it makes you wonder how much of that's a change of coaching structure.
We've lost our fearless leader.
The fearless leader is having convulsions.
Yeah, I was just saying I agree with that. I wonder how much of that is a change of coaching structure. I know he was quite close to Madge, I guess, as was Adam Doueihi. As I said, they it would be nice to have had them have a crack together from the start, but we'll wait and see on that one. Who have I got to slap for? I'm just going to slap all the officials because I don't know. It's lazy.
Weekend that was.
But it happened. So
yes, it did
anyway,
happen.
I'll finish on a good one and salute Siasiwa Takiaho for an outstanding effort against Penrith, one of the performances of the round. And the last, since he's come back, since he's gotten over the rib stuff and all the rest of it, he's been fantastic. And as I've said repeatedly, I wish he was staying in NRL, perhaps playing for, a team I might follow. But anyway.
For the Titans, the Sharks are taking. I really do not understand.
Don't need him.
We're taking. What's his going? Fafita's going. So is Tolman. They can go. We'll have Sebo.
As good friend of the show, Steve Chester suggested he thinks it's probably Robbo pulling some French connections for a nice retirement.
Yeah, a bit of a cushy retirement fund.
Get him a couple of years, tax-free
Drink margaritas
overseas.
on the beach over in south of France.
Which makes sense and good if that's what he's after. Good on him.
And you know what? I hope.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Absolutely, it does. And he can play at 50%, just belt the crap out of some Englishmen.
Yeah.
How good.
Absolutely. Why not? What dreams may come, eh? But Oliver?
I am going to salute Sean Johnson's, I won't say return to form, but return to one really good performance.
Yeah. I'm going to salute Edric Lee. The bloke's played very little footy for 2 years to come back and get 5 tries. Now the record holder for the Newcastle Knights. It was a fantastic performance. His hand probably said he should have got 4 instead of 5 tries, but anyway, was another one for the bunker. And we mentioned him before too, Drinkwater. I think he's in career best form. He definitely deserves his position that he's playing in at the moment, and he probably deserves a starring role somewhere as well. So I know the Cowboys are using him as one of their link players, but I don't know. He could probably go and play 6 somewhere and run a team, but.
They might be very happy just playing one.
Yeah, probably is in a team that's going extremely well.
Yes. I think he'll be just fine, David. But thanks for your concern for young Scott. Anyway, that has been Footy and Frothies. We'll be back Wednesday with a very quick preview show for the 4 games ahead. And then we'll head into Origin week again. So pleasure doing business with you all, gentlemen. Good job. And as we said earlier in the show, hope everyone stays safe. Hope this rain pisses off very soon. And we will be back very shortly. Until then, take care and we'll talk. Well, then, I suppose.
Good evening.
Good job.